Admiral Kruntel stood at the observation deck of the Imperial flagship Eternal Glory, his 4 hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at the blue marble suspended in the vast darkness of space. The sight of Earth, so small and seemingly insignificant, brought a smirk to his face. His secondary eyes blinked in rhythm with the pulsing of the ship's quantum core, while his primary set remained fixed on humanity's homeworld. Another primitive species about to learn their place in the cosmos, he muttered to himself, running a hand through his ceremonial head crest. Computer, display the Imperial fleet status. A holographic display materialized before him, showing thousands of warships arranged in perfect formation. The mighty vessels of the Galactic Empire stretched as far as his enhanced vision could see, each one a masterpiece of engineering capable of reducing entire continents to ash. The fleet had conquered 37 civilizations in the past solar cycle alone, and Earth would be number 38. Supreme Commander Zarakesh is requesting an update, Admiral announced Lieutenant Plex, his communication officer, whose tentacles were wrapped around multiple control interfaces simultaneously. Tell her that everything proceeds according to plan, Kruntel responded, his voice carrying the weight of 10,000 successful conquests. The humans remain oblivious to their impending surrender. Our stealth systems are performing perfectly. He allowed himself a moment of pride as he reviewed the tactical readouts. The Eternal Glory alone carried enough firepower to level every major city on the planet below. The humans, with their quaint nuclear weapons and primitive space stations, would have no choice but to accept Imperial rule. They would become another footnote in the Empire's glorious expansion. Sir Plex interrupted his thoughts. Our cultural analysis team has completed their preliminary report on human civilization. Summarize it for me, Lieutenant. Though I doubt there will be any surprises. They are unusual, sir. The report indicates they spend an inordinate amount of time engaging in something called entertainment. They appear to simulate conflicts and disasters for amusement. Our behavioral specialists are quite puzzled. Kruntel waved 2 of his hands dismissively. Primitive species often create elaborate distractions from their meaningless existence. Once they understand the true power of the Empire, they will abandon such foolishness. He turned to face his bridge crew, all members of various species that had already accepted the Empire's superiority. Each one represented a successful conquest, a civilization that had learned the futility of resistance. Humans would soon join their ranks. Begin the final preparations, he commanded. I want our formation to be visible the moment we drop our stealth fields. Let them witness the full might of the Imperial fleet before we demand their surrender. The bridge hummed with activity as his orders were relayed throughout the fleet. Kruntel returned his gaze to Earth, imagining how its inhabitants would react when they realized their insignificance in the face of galactic civilization. His victory was already written in the stars. Sir Plex spoke again, this time with a hint of confusion in his voice. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet. They appear to be broadcasting entertainment signals at an increased rate. Irrelevant, Kruntel declared. They can distract themselves however they wish during their final hours of independence. Soon they will learn the true meaning of galactic order. As the fleet made its final adjustments, Admiral Kruntel allowed himself to imagine his upcoming triumph. Perhaps Supreme Commander Zarakesh would finally grant him governance of his own sector after this conquest. He had certainly earned it after centuries of loyal service. Little did Admiral Kruntel know that his carefully planned conquest was about to collide with humanity's most powerful weapon, their inexhaustible sense of humor. But for now, he stood confident and proud, fully assured that this would be just another routine addition to the Empire's ever-expanding borders. Deactivate stealth fields, Kruntel commanded, straightening his ceremonial armor. Begin transmission of the standard Imperial surrender demand on all frequencies. The massive fleet shimmed into visibility above Earth's atmosphere, thousands of ships appearing like stars against the darkness. Kruntel activated the broadcast system, his voice carrying the weight of countless conquered civilizations. People of Earth, he began, using the Empire's most intimidating diplomatic tone. Your planet has been chosen for integration into the Galactic Empire. Resistance is futile. You have one planetary rotation to surrender your governing bodies and submit to Imperial rule. Should you refuse? He paused for dramatic effect, but before he could continue, Lieutenant Plex's tentacles started writhing in confusion. "Admiral, we're receiving thousands of responses, but they're not what we expected." "Display them," Kruntel ordered, expecting to see the usual panicked reactions from planetary leaders. Instead, the main screen filled with what humans called memes. One showed his own image, expertly edited to wear something called a party hat, with text reading "shows up to conquer Earth, doesn't even bring snacks." Another displayed the Imperial fleet with the caption "Space Door Dash looking kinda aggressive today." "What is the meaning of this?" Kruntel demanded, his secondary eyes twitching in confusion. "Sir, humans are broadcasting these images across their global information network. They're turning our surrender demand into something called a trending topic." The communications officer displayed more responses. Someone had already created a parody song of the surrender demand, set to a catchy tune. It was rapidly gaining what humans called views. "This is unprecedented," growled Kruntel. "No species has ever responded to the standard Imperial surrender demand with entertainment." He straightened himself again. "Send the follow-up threat. Show them our planet-cracking capabilities." The fleet moved into attack formation, and several ships demonstrated their power by vaporizing a small uninhabited moon. Kruntel began his second speech, but was interrupted by Lieutenant Plex again. "Sir, humans are now organizing what they call watch parties. They're gathering in open spaces with food and beverages to observe our display. Someone called an influencer is live streaming our formation with commentary about our ship's aesthetic design choices." Kruntel's face scales turned a deep shade of purple. "They dare to critique our ship designs. The Imperial fleet architecture has struck fear into the hearts of countless species." "They're not afraid," Sir Plex reported, scanning through more human broadcasts. "They're rating our ships on something called space aesthetic vibes and discussing which ones would make good selfie backgrounds." A new transmission caught their attention. A human entertainment channel was providing live coverage of the invasion, complete with expert commentary and social media reactions. The hosts were debating whether the Imperial fleet's color scheme was a bit too last season. "Enough," Kruntel bellowed. "Launch the intimidation probes. Show them the consequences of their insolence." Thousands of probes descended toward Earth's major cities, designed to project fear-inducing holograms of planetary devastation. Within minutes, humans had somehow incorporated these projections into their entertainment. Street performers were using them as backgrounds for impromptu dance numbers. Admiral Plex said hesitantly, "The humans have started a competition to create something called memes about our invasion. The current top entry is an image of our fleet with text saying, 'Mom said it's our turn to play with the solar system.'" Kruntel slumped in his command chair, all four hands massaging his temples. In all his centuries of conquest, he had never encountered a species that responded to imminent doom with jokes. The Empire's carefully crafted intimidation protocols were useless against opponents who turned threats into entertainment. Sir Plex ventured carefully. "Should we proceed with the next phase of the invasion?" "How can we invade a planet that's not taking us seriously?" Kruntel muttered. "The Empire's reputation for striking fear into the hearts of our enemies is currently being used as a template for something humans call a dance challenge." Plex finished. "It's quite popular on their social media platforms." Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's hologram materialized on the bridge, her crystalline armor glinting menacingly. "Admiral Kruntel, explain why I'm receiving reports of humans rating our invasion on something called Invasion Advisor with only 3 stars. Kruntel's scales paled. "Supreme Commander, we are implementing the standard intimidation protocol. Phase 3 will surely. They've given our threatening messages poor reviews for being, quote, unacceptable, monotone, and lacking background music." She cut him off. "This is unprecedented. Deploy the Eternal Night formation." The entire Imperial fleet began its carefully choreographed maneuver, thousands of ships moving in perfect synchronization to blot out Earth's sun. It was a sight that had made hardened warrior races beg for mercy. "Formation complete," Kruntel announced. "Now they will understand the true power of—" Sir Plex interrupted. "Humans are using our ships as a backdrop for an outdoor festival. They're calling it Spatiella. Attendance is in the millions." The main screen displayed crowds of humans gathering in open spaces worldwide, They lounged on blankets and chairs, sharing food and beverages while pointing at the fleet above. Vendors were selling something called glow sticks, designed to match the Imperial ship's engine signatures. "They're having picnics," Kruntel's voice cracked. "During an invasion." "Not just picnics, sir. They're hosting viewing parties with something called commentary tracks. Several humans calling themselves astronomers are giving detailed technical analyses of our fleet's positioning. One of them just called our formation, and I quote, "aesthetically pleasing but lacking in originality." A new notification flashed across the screen. Someone had created a social media filter that let humans take pictures appearing to wear Imperial armor. It had gone viral in less than an hour. "Deploy the fear inductors," Kruntel ordered desperately. "All frequencies, maximum power." The fleet's most advanced psychological warfare technology activated, broadcasting subsonic frequencies designed to trigger panic in lesser species. The humans' response was not what anyone expected. "Sir, they're using our fear inductor frequencies as baselines for dance music," Plex reported, his tentacles trembling in disbelief. "Several human musicians are already releasing remixes. One of them has reached something called the top charts." Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's hologram flickered with barely contained rage. "Admiral, explain why our invasion has its own entertainment category on their streaming platforms." Before Kruntel could respond, Lieutenant Plex's console erupted with new alerts. "Admiral, humans are now organizing something called a Fleet Watch competition. They're awarding prizes for the most creative ways to view our ships. The current leader is a group who rented a floating restaurant to have something called a space invasion-themed dinner." The main screen showed humans in various locations, all treating the invasion like an elaborate show. Families spread blankets in parks, young humans balanced devices called phones on selfie sticks, and something called food trucks lined up at every viewing location. "They've started rating our individual ships," Sir Plex continued. "The Eternal Glory is trending because someone said its design looks like, and I quote, a space Gothic cathedral had a baby with a disco ball." Kruntel slumped further in his chair. "How many military vessels are in Earth's orbit?" "None, sir. Their Space Force hasn't deployed, though they are using their orbital cameras to create something called a live-stream documentary about our fleet's architectural influences." No military response at all. Well, Plex hesitated. "They have launched several small devices toward our ships, but they appear to be camera drones? They're capturing close-up footage for something called an Imperial Fleet Instagram reel." A notification chimed, and Plex's tentacles curled in surprise. "Sir, we're being invited to participate in multiple talk shows. They want to interview you about, and I'm reading this directly, your inspiration for the invasion aesthetic and whether you'd consider doing a collaboration with their entertainment industry." Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's hologram loomed over the bridge. "Admiral Kruntel, in all my centuries of conquest, I have never seen such a complete failure of intimidation tactics. These humans, they're making us look." Trendy Plex supplied helpfully. "According to their social media metrics, Imperial fashion is now, as they say, all the rage. Several human clothing designers have already released collections inspired by our armor." Enough, Supreme Commander Zara Kesh roared. "Admiral Kruntel, you will commence military operations immediately. I want this planet under Imperial control before they turn our entire invasion into an entertainment franchise." Kruntel straightened in his chair. "Yes, Supreme Commander. All ships, battle formations. Launch the Seekers." Thousands of automated combat drones poured from the Imperial ships, their quantum weapons primed. They descended toward Earth's major cities in perfect attack formation, ready to demonstrate the Empire's overwhelming military superiority. Sir Plex reported, "They're deploying something against our Seekers." "Finally. Show me their primitive defensive weapons." The main screen displayed the humans' response. Kruntel's jaw dropped. Thousands of small aerial devices rose to meet the Seekers, each one trailing a banner. Some carried messages like "Welcome to Earth," "Try our tacos." Others displayed corporate logos and something called promotional codes. "Those are advertising drones," Plex explained. "They're using them to sell products to our invasion force." The Seekers, programmed to engage hostile military targets, found themselves surrounded by decidedly non-military devices. Their combat algorithms struggled to process the situation. Sir, our seekers are becoming entangled in something called sponsored content. 3 squadrons have already received promotional offers for local restaurants. Kruntel slammed all 4 hands on his command console. Launch the ground forces. Deploy the Devastator mechs. Massive war machines descended from the fleet, each one capable of leveling a city. They landed in strategic locations, ready to begin their unstoppable advance. But again, the humans had other ideas. Admiral Plex's voice quivered with disbelief. Humans are approaching our Devastator mechs with food trucks. The screen showed the massive war machines surrounded by vehicles selling various Earth cuisines. Crowds gathered around them, treating the invasion force like some sort of festival attraction. They're calling it Meals with Mechs, Plex continued. It's becoming a social media sensation. Several of our ground commanders are reporting that humans keep trying to take pictures with their troops. One of the Devastator mech pilots appeared on the command channel. Sir, they're offering us something called street tacos. Our xenobiologists have confirmed they're safe to eat, but is this allowed under Imperial protocol? Before Kruntel could respond, another crisis emerged. Admiral, our electronic warfare systems are being overwhelmed by something called Wi-Fi requests. Humans are trying to connect to our battlenet to post reviews of the invasion. The situation deteriorated further as reports flooded in from around the planet. Imperial shock troops found themselves being invited to neighborhood barbecues. Strategic command centers were being tagged on something called Google Maps as tourist attractions. A group of human children had started a game of hide and seek with a squad of elite Imperial assassins. Sir Plex announced, humans have started a betting pool. They're wagering on which of our weapons will turn out to be, quote, totally awesome but completely impractical. A Devastator mech commander's distressed voice came through command, requesting guidance. Humans are organizing a block party around my unit. They're using my leg stabilizers as a backdrop for something called a DJ booth. Our psychological warfare specialists are reporting total system failure, another officer added. Humans are describing our fear-inducing battle cries as, and I quote, perfect podcast intro material. Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's hologram appeared again, radiating fury. Admiral, your invasion force is being turned into an entertainment venue. There are humans selling tickets to watch our troops march. We're trying, Supreme Commander Kruntel protested. But their weapons are hospitality and marketing. Sir Plex interrupted. You need to see this. Humans have started a social media challenge called Invader Makeover. They're offering fashion advice to our troops. Several platoons have already received complimentary skincare samples. The bridge crew watched in horror as their fearsome invasion force was systematically transformed into what humans called content creators. Elite Imperial warriors found themselves being coached on proper lighting for selfies. Battle droids were being used as backdrops for amateur music videos. And now Plex reported with a note of resignation, someone has created an app that lets humans rate their invasion experience. We're getting marked down for not providing enough vegetarian options at our landing zones. Admiral Kruntel paced the bridge, all 4 hands clasped behind his back, his scales shifting through various shades of frustration. The holoscreen before him displayed what the humans called trending topics. Every single one was about the invasion, but not in any way the Empire had intended. Tell me the status of Operation Eternal Terror, he demanded. Plex's tentacles drooped. Our elite terror squadrons have gone viral, sir. The squad leader, Commander Brix, has gained something called a following after humans noticed his, quote, adorably grumpy expression. The screen showed Commander Brix, one of their most decorated warriors, looking confused as humans crowded around him for something called group selfies. His signature terrifying snarl had been turned into what humans called an emoji. Our soldiers are becoming social media influencers, Plex continued. 3 different squadrons have received sponsorship offers from human companies. The 7th Nebula Corps is now sponsored by something called an energy drink. A new alert flashed across the screens. Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's voice boomed through the bridge. Admiral, explain why I'm seeing our troops participating in something called TikTok challenges. The main display showed Imperial soldiers, still in full battle armor, attempting to recreate human dance moves. Their combat training, designed for maximum battlefield efficiency, had apparently translated well into something humans called choreography. It gets worse, Sir Plex added. The planetary Devastator crews are competing for something called likes. They're using their thermal cannons to toast marshmallows for humans. The footage showed one of their most powerful weapons, capable of melting mountains, being used to create something called s'mores while humans cheered and recorded the event. "Launch the mind shredders," Kruntel commanded, his voice cracking with desperation. "Show them the true horror of Imperial psychic warfare." The Empire's most advanced psychic warriors deployed, ready to fill human minds with unspeakable terrors. Within hours, Plex had more disturbing news. "Sir, the mind shredders they're becoming meditation guides. Humans are praising their ability to, quote, really help you disconnect from your daily stress. They're booking sessions." A mind shredder appeared on the command channel, looking thoroughly confused. "Admiral, humans are asking us for something called mindfulness workshops. They say our psychic terror projections are perfect for achieving inner peace. What are we supposed to do?" "Our battle meditation chambers are being reviewed on wellness apps," Plex added. "We're getting 5 stars for ambiance." The situation in orbit was no better. The Imperial fleet's most impressive formations, designed to instill despair in their enemies, had become backgrounds for human photography enthusiasts. Someone had organized a space photography contest called Shots Fired, featuring artistic images of their weapon systems. Sir, a junior officer reported, humans have started a betting pool on which Imperial ship has the best lighting for their social media content. The Eternal Glory is currently in the lead, but the Doombringer is gaining popularity due to its quote, retro sci-fi aesthetic. Kruntel watched in horror as his invasion force transformed into what humans called content creators. Elite shock troops were giving makeup tutorials using their battle paint techniques. Stealth operatives were being asked for tips on how to take better shadow selfies. The humans have started a reality show, Plex announced with a mix of awe and horror. It's called Invader Makeover, where they give style advice to our troops. The episode featuring the Plasma Korgs got 10 million views in an hour. A particularly distressing report came in from the ground forces. "Command, the humans have discovered that our battle robots are excellent at something called synchronized dancing. They're organizing competitions. 3 units have already received talent agent offers." Sir Plex's voice trembled. "The Eternal Glory has just been tagged as an, quote, Instagram-worthy location. We're trending in something called travel blogs." The final straw came when the Empire's most feared assassin, Shadow Walker Prime, appeared on the command channel. "Admiral," the legendary warrior said, sounding unusually uncertain, "humans are requesting my presence at something called a comic convention. They want me to judge a costume contest of people dressed as me." Supreme Commander Zara Kesh materialized on the bridge, her hologram practically vibrating with rage. "Admiral Kruntel, your invasion force has become an entertainment franchise. Our troops are getting verified on social media. The Galactic Empire is being tagged in human fashion blogs." But Supreme Commander Kruntel protested weakly. "We've tried everything. Terror tactics, psychological warfare, shows of force. They've turned it all into content." Zara Kesh roared. "Our fearsome reputation is being marketed as a brand. There are humans making tutorial videos on how to recreate our battle armor using something called craft supplies." Kruntel was about to respond when something extraordinary caught his attention. The humans were broadcasting a unified message from their global network. Rather than a surrender or a plea for mercy, it was an invitation. "Greetings, Imperial Fleet. We've noticed you guys seem a bit stressed. How about we talk this over at our newly organized Galactic Food Festival? We're featuring dishes from every Earth culture, plus an open mic night for any Imperial troops who want to share their invasion stories. We promise great food, better company, and absolutely no military conflict whatsoever." The bridge fell silent. Even Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's hologram seemed at a loss for words. Sir Plex said quietly, "Our cultural analysis team has just completed a revised report on human psychology. They believe we've fundamentally misunderstood Earth's defense strategy." "Explain," Kruntel demanded. Humans don't resist through force, sir. They absorb. They take what threatens them and transform it into something they can enjoy. Our invasion isn't failing because our weapons are ineffective. It's failing because they've turned us into entertainment. A new transmission appeared, showing scenes from around the planet. Imperial troops were sitting in human cafes, apparently engaged in something called stand-up comedy about their invasion experiences. Battle robots were teaching dance classes. A mind shredder was leading a meditation session called Finding Peace Through Cosmic Terror. Furthermore, Plex continued. Our troops report unprecedented levels of job satisfaction. The 7th Nebula Corps is requesting permanent assignment to Earth as cultural ambassadors. Their commander says they've never felt more appreciated. Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's hologram flickered thoughtfully. In 30,000 years of Imperial expansion, we've never encountered a species that conquered us by simply refusing to be conquered. They've even started a scholarship program, Plex added. Humans want to study Imperial culture, but only the parts they find entertaining. They're calling it the Galactic Cultural Exchange Initiative. Kruntel watched as more reports flooded in. Imperial soldiers were learning human jokes. Battle strategists were being consulted for entertainment production. The Eternal Glory's engine signature had been turned into a popular music track. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should consider a different approach. Computer, analyze historical data. Has any species ever successfully invaded Earth? Negative, the computer responded. However, Earth shows the highest rate of cultural integration in the known galaxy. They don't defeat their opponents, they befriend them. The bridge crew watched as humans continued their relentless hospitality offensive. Food trucks had now reached even the most remote Imperial positions. The Doombringer's crew was participating in something called a potluck dinner. Supreme Commander Zara Kesh's expression shifted from rage to contemplation. Admiral, it appears we have a choice. We can either continue this increasingly ridiculous invasion attempt, or Kruntel finished. We can accept their invitation and claim this was a cultural exchange mission all along. Precisely. After all, the Empire's reputation for adaptability is almost as legendary as its military might. Kruntel straightened his armor, which humans had dubbed totally retro chic, and made his decision. Lieutenant Plex, prepare a fleet-wide announcement. The Galactic Empire officially recognizes Earth as a premium entertainment partner, Plex suggested helpfully. Their marketing team already prepared the press release. 6 months later, Admiral Kruntel sat in his favorite Earth cafe, sipping something called a caramel macchiato, while reading the latest galactic news headlines on his datapad. The top story featured the unprecedented success of the Human Imperial Cultural Exchange Program. More refreshments? Admiral asked Sarah, the cafe owner who had somehow become his unofficial Earth cultural advisor. The new batch of Imperial officers just arrived for their orientation, and they look a bit nervous. Through the window, he watched as newly arrived Imperial troops were being welcomed with what humans called welcome bags, complete with social media starter guides and restaurant recommendations. Who would have thought, he mused, that our greatest military failure would become our most significant diplomatic success? The Empire's fearsome reputation had transformed. Now their ships were famous for hosting the best parties in 5 galaxies. Imperial diplomatic functions, once dreaded for their rigid formality, were now highly sought after for their entertainment value. Even Supreme Commander Zara Kesh had embraced the change, recently winning something called a TikTok challenge with her surprisingly good dance moves. Sir. Plex approached, his tentacles now adorned with what humans called friendship bracelets. The latest statistics are in. Imperial recruitment has increased 300% since we started including Earth postings, apparently. The chance to become a social media influencer is quite appealing to young officers. The Eternal Glory, still in Earth orbit, had become a popular tourist destination. Its war room was now a trendy restaurant called the Strategic Dining Initiative, where former battle planners created elaborate dinner presentations using their tactical holoprojectors. Kruntel smiled as he watched a group of Imperial cadets and human social media experts collaborating on something called a viral marketing campaign. The galaxy was changing, becoming less about conquest and more about connections, all because humans had refused to take an invasion seriously. "You know, Plex," he said, finishing his coffee, "I think we might be the first empire in history to accidentally conquer ourselves." As if to prove his point, a notification popped up on his datapad. His latest holotube video, reacting to Earth memes about my failed invasion, had just hit 10 million views. The galaxy, it seemed, had finally learned to laugh.